Town Manager Anthony Wilson, and we're here today to get some training to ensure that we are meeting all of the workplace requirements of the Bureau of Labor Standards. And this is important for a couple of reasons. One is, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're providing a safe workplace for all of our employees. Number two, we certainly do not want to run afoul of the Bureau of Labor Standards, because if they were to come in and do an inspection and find that we're not adhering to their regulations, the town of Winthrop could face tens of thousands of dollars in fines. So that's obviously something that we want to avoid. And then thirdly, we will see some relief as far as our insurance premiums are concerned. If we are meeting these standards, we get SHAPE certified, and we qualify for the top tier of the MMA's worker compensation safety program. So we have invited here today Ken Desmond. Ken does this training all over the state. He comes highly recommended from our safety consultant, Lynn Martin. And so with that, Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish there was a bigger group, but we understand what the situation is today. But a little bit about me. I've got 55 years of fire service under my belt. I'm still going strong. I started in 1970 in the town of Winslow as a volunteer, went on as a career guy. And then I went to the city of Bath for 25 years as the house captain and training officer of that city, and became the fire chief in Woolwich when I retired. And now I'm in Georgetown, helping the Georgetown firefighters doing their training. So I've got an extensive background in fire training and fire safety and education. But I've been doing this for quite a while, these mandatories. I've been working with Lynn Martin for many years. What I'm going to do is set everything up so that you understand why we do this. I work very closely with Ann up at the Bureau of Labor and Steve Greeley. We converse quite often, okay? So without further ado, we're going to start with the hazard communications for the town of Winthrop. So we're going to see what we can do here. I'll turn this on. Okay, the purpose and the objectives of your global harmonization, what they're asking us to do is provide employees with information on the hazards of our chemicals that we have in the workplace. It could be the fire station, EMS, police, town office, public works, and what have you. The regulations say we have to follow this standard. This was rewritten back in 2010, and it went into effect in 2013. So labeling requirements, training requirements, it's all mandatory for all employees that work for the town of Winthrop. And we're going to cover some safety data sheets. So the elements of the HAZCOM standard, it's all here for you, and it's all written. Matter of fact, your safety data book that you have for the town offices here, I believe the fire station has one, and so forth. Okay, the chemical manufacturers, those are the folks that we need really rely on when we buy chemicals. And when we get these, they need to give us the updated versions of the safety data sheets. It covers the chemicals that meet the standards definition. There are some special requirements, but I don't think there's much that you have to be worried about here in this town. But all the labeling that is done for hazardous materials today are now with the name of the product on the label, the hazards that it poses, and a chemical company or the company who produced it with an emergency phone number on it. Well, if this is the package that's leaking, how are we going to get that information? Send the town manager in, pick up the product and look at it? Yes, you know, I'm only kidding, sir. Anyway, that's why we have safety data sheets, okay? And there's another section of what these little pictograms, it tells you what the hazards are. If you don't know what that is, we're going to cover that here in a few minutes. So your written HAZCOM program you do have, it's already here, the book, we're going to go over it here in a minute. The location of the safety data sheets, where is this located, Anthony? This is...
So for the town office, the safety data sheets are located in the break room so that everyone can access them at all times.
Correct. That's where you don't want it in a locked room, office or whatever. It has to be readily available to all employees. Employees' information and training is required. That's why you're here today. And it has a good list of chemicals that we are using here in the town office. Multiple work sites. Obviously, here in this town, we've got multiple work sites, right? You got your public works, you got your police, fire, and transfer stations, so on and so forth. The employer is required to inform under all employees about the hazard of chemicals, the safety data sheets, and labeling requirements. Again, labels on the shipping containers must include the identifier, like you just saw in the picture with the chemical, the single word, the hazard statement, precautionary statements, pictogram, and manufacturer's information like these emergency phone numbers. Okay, this is all required on labels. Pictograms, okay, they're all on there. So let's look at the flame over a circle is some type of oxidizer like sodium nitrate, whatever. That would be on the safety data sheet or on the chemical packaging that it comes in. The flame over a flame, the white flame to a black flame, those are all flammable materials. The exploding bomb, well, we don't have explosives here in the town. I guess we won't have to cover that one, I don't believe. Public Works? No, I don't. The skull and crossbone is your toxic chemicals. The other pictogram is corrosion, your acids, batteries, and so forth. Any gas cylinders. Now, this means gases under pressure. Now, an SCBA bottle that the firefighters use, 4.5 PSI, that's pressurized. It has to have a label on it. And it's because non-flammable, but it has to have that. Health hazard, anything that's going to cause damage to our body, carcinogens, cancer-causing agents, respiratories, target organs, and so on and so forth. This is the one that you want to stay clear of if you have a product that has this label pictogram on it that says, hey, let's not breathe this stuff. Let's evacuate and get the appropriate PPE. Then we have the toxicity of it for pollutants, and then your exclamation is your sensitizers, your respiratory tract irritants, and so forth. Police department, what do they use? What do they use? Pepper spray? They still use, don't it? That's an irritant. Also, what they did with these, this hazard communications was showing the other label, the hazardous material information system. This one shows 4 quadrants, blue being the health hazard, red being flammability hazard, yellow is reactivity, and any special hazard is on the bottom. The thing to remember is you look at, you see health, anything with a 2 or more in the quadrants, it's calling for SCBA's PPE. 0 in any one of those quadrants is no hazard. 4 being extreme. So obviously, if you look at the flammability, that's number 4. That's the most, and then it does react with other chemicals. So you've got to keep that in mind. And then it's also water reactive when you see the W with a line through it. So that's the NFPA, what they call the 704. So you don't need to remember that. But that's what we need to remember that's on the safety data sheets. Secondary containers, if you're going to buy in large quantity and put it into other containers, it's required by law, you have to label them with the pictograms on it, okay? Don't do like I did in my garage. This is what I did. I just took a picture of I just put some stuff together, some kerosene and some gas, and that's not the way to label it, okay? We don't want to see this. All right. Exemptions from labeling, yeah, there are a few out there, but let's look at the safety data sheet. I'll pick that up. The safety data sheets, it comes in 16 sections. Section 1 is the product identifier. Who made it? Manufacturing, address, and emergency phone numbers is in section 1. If you need to contact them for any reason, go to section 1. Section 2 is your hazard. Is it a corrosive? Is it an oxidizer? Is it flammable? Okay, to keep that in mind, that'll be in section 2. Section 3 talks about the components that make this chemical. Now, do you have a propane gas grill on the premise here?
We do not.
Do you have one at the firehouse? Okay, at the firehouse, you have to have a safety data sheet on propane. Well, propane has two ingredients. Propane is odorless, tasteless, and colorless. So they put ethyl mercaptan. So that would be in section 2 telling you what is propane made of, the two chemicals that make this a hazard. Section 4, if anybody gets contaminated because the product has spilled, we go to first aid, tells you what you need to do in section 4. Section 5 is firefighting. 6, accidental release measures, what you need to do to make it safe for you. Handling and storage, precautions for safe handling and storage of these products. Personal protective equipment in section 8. 9 talks about the chemical properties. Well, this chemical that's leaking on the floor, will it go in a storm drain or floor drain, and will it sink in water or will it float on water? Will it react? And then section 10 is the reactivity. I used to do demonstrations a few years ago until the Bureau of Labor says, Ken, I think you ought to stop. Well, I used to have, you know, the old coffee cans used to be metal. They're all plastic today. Well, I'd take a can and put HTH chlorine in the can and 2 drops of brake fluid and set it on the floor, on the ground out front of the station and show people within a minute a fireball would shoot this high because it reacts with other products. Section 10 will tell you what this product will do. Well, they told me I can't do that anymore because most of our firefighters were smelling this and it was unsafe, so I stopped doing it. We talk about toxicity, the effects and chronic effects for short and long-term effects if you get contaminated. It's in section 11. Talk about the effects of hazardous ozone, and then we talk about section 13, 14 is how do you dispose of it, transport it, and 15 is other regulated information. But they're all there, okay? So what I want to show you, this is one chemical that I looked up in your safety data book, and it has the chemical. Section 1, Section 2 is hazard classification with the pictogram, okay, which is a corrosive, okay? That's what you're looking for, okay? So keep that in mind. Let's see. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about on this is training upon initial assignments. Any new people coming on board, or whenever a new physical or health hazard is introduced. If you got a new product, a new chemical that's being added, you need to let the folks know what's been added to the safety data book. Training covers categories of hazards and specific chemicals and detection methods. So any questions on what we just covered in global harmonization? You probably understand that quite well. All right, let's move on. All right, we're going to talk about fire extinguishers now. This is pretty simple stuff, folks, but you got to know how to use it and when to use it. The standards that were made is put out by the National Fire Protection Association in Massachusetts, writes the standards, and then OSHA comes up with the OSHA standards following 1910-155. The fire tetrahedron, obviously, if you know about fire, it takes fuel, source of ignition, and oxygen. The process of combustion is called a fire tetrahedron. Class A means a fire involving ordinary combustibles, such as paper, wood, cloth. B is your flammable liquids, combustible liquids, and so on, and greases. C is your electrical, energized equipment. D is, again, this is involving combustible metals, which I don't think we use much of that anymore. I know the old Volkswagen cars used to be magnesium, and you had a Volkswagen fire, you had magnesium. Yeah, it would be quite something to put out. So fire safety education, fire protection for all of us is knowing the class A, B, and C. Most of your extinguishers you have here in the house and in most houses is the ABC extinguishers. The Class K came out a few years ago because of the cooking oils have changed, and anywhere they do cooking, I don't believe the school cafeterias use any deep frying cooking, so you probably don't have to worry about Class K. Restaurants have them. You do have an extinguisher? Yeah, because we have them in Bath because we have many restaurants that we potentially go into. Yeah. Okay. Extinguisher classifications means the letter classification given to an extinguisher is designate the class of fire in which to extinguish it. Okay. So what I'd like to do is stop right there. The fire extinguishers themselves, what you have, this one is over by that door. That's near an exit. That's what the NFPA 10 tells us we need to do. Any fire extinguisher should be near an exit way on any building. No extinguisher should be more than 75 feet away from where you need it. So within 75 feet in this room, you're okay. This extinguisher is a 10-pound ABC. They're located, like I said, by the doorways. They're required by law to be inspected monthly. I believe you're the one that inspects these?
In the town office, yes.
Yes, aren't you like it? Designated, I like that. So what that means is these extinguishers has a tag from the company that I believe you got 3As, is your company that comes in once a year and gives you a new tag. And every month on the back, they need to be inspected. So this one was redone in August. So he signed off on it for September, and he's only got a few days left, by the way, to sign in this one, but he still got it in time. That's what but when you're looking at it, when you're inspecting, what are you looking for? You want to make sure the needle's in the green, the seal is holding the pin in place so it doesn't fall out, the nozzle has not been tampered with or filled with gum, peas, cafeterias in my schools in Bath when I was inspecting. I found a lot of stuff, mashed potatoes. Wow. Anyway, those are done once a month, and they should always be visible, and there should be a sign above the fire extinguisher, so when there's a lot of people standing in the room, they should be able to say, there it is. Well, I don't see a sign on the wall, but maybe we could get those. But keep that in mind. Once the extinguisher has been used, you cannot put it back in service because the nitrogen that's in there that expels the dry chemical leaks out as soon as you break the seal. Within 15 or 20 minutes, it's completely exhausted. So keep that in mind. If portable fire extinguishers are provided for employees' use, they must mount, locate, and identify them so workers can access them. Now, I'll ask, well, I know the fire service does, but have you ever had any training on extinguishers? You actually use one? Yeah. If you haven't been trained on using the fire extinguisher, we ask that you will please, if you see fire, call 911 and exit the building. If you've been trained in it, then it's okay. If you want to be trained, just ask the fire department. I know that the 3As does trainings on them. If you want to make it mandatory that everybody be trained on fire extinguishers. It does get very costly to do that, okay? Just food for thought.
Quick question, does
Yeah.
that training involve actually extinguishing a fire? Or?
Extinguish a fire, yes.
Okay.
It'll be a Class B and a Class A and Class B fires. They'll be put in little pots outside, and you go out and actually extinguish the fire. We just did the nursing home in Bath. They had asked for their staff to be trained, and I went up to videotape it with the firefighters from Bath, and they did a nice job, you know. So keep that in mind. Any questions on extinguishers? Okay. Yes. What you want to do is you want to take it well, you can take it to the firehouse because I know that the fire extinguisher companies do stop by and pick up fire extinguishers to be refilled. This one, 2022. This one's good for 12 years. For a hydrostatic test, has to be done every 12 years. So in 34, this would go out for hydrostatic testing. In 6 years, in 2028, this company will say, we're going to take this and take the powder out and refill it with the powder just to loosen it up and put it in service, called 6-year maintenance. And that's how they do that. Now, do you have any pressurized water extinguishers in-house here? Or are they all ABCs? No. Okay, so that's you have to remember. The date of manufacturing, 12 years, it has to go to hydro. Most likely the company's going to say, oh, by the way, this year you got to take these out. What they normally do, the company will give you a loaner while they get that recertified for you. All right. Good questions. All right, the next one is emergency planning. The emergency plan, I've used the library, and when I do these programs, I always look at the town I'm going to, a fire department I'm going to, and I put in pictures and make it homey, okay? So anyway, what are the facts? Well, again, we've had many, many fires over the years. These were just done in 2008 and 9. Just telling you about the deaths we've had in our country. There's been a decline in both in 2009, but a lot going on. But it's exit routes, people not knowing where the exits are readily available. Anytime you're having a public meeting and you're using this hall, where are the exits? Do you take a minute and say, by the way, if there's a fire and a fire alarm goes off, these are the 2 means of egress we have available to us to exit the building. That's under the 1910 33 standard, the OSHA standard. The NFPA 101 safety code, life safety code, deems that we need to remember how to get out of our place in an emergency. The exit routes, as they're continuous and unobstructed, I can see both exit ways that are clear. Access is part of the exit route that leads to the exit. Again, keep in mind, folks, exit routes must be permanent, which I believe they are. They are separated by fire-resistant materials. Again, you pass that. Openings into the exit must be limited, must be adequate, which means 2 means of egress out of each location. Exit discharge must lead directly to the outside, and they must be unlocked from the inside. You can, if you go to the door and you have to unlock it, that's a no-no. That's why they ask for panic hardware, and they should be easily to open when their event is being used. And they have to be, the height of the room has to be at least 7 feet 6 inches in height, and the width of the door has to be 28 inches or more. And most of these doors are all 36, so they pass that. Okay? The key components of an exit route is that we want to make sure the employees or people who are here at the meeting is minimized so they can get out freely and safely and so on and so forth. You do have your exit signs. You do have your emergency lighting systems in this room. You also have pull stations for the alarm system. And how often do you test the emergency lighting system?
So because this building is part of a school campus, we have fire drills, it seems like
Yes.
every other month. So,
Well, especially during September. I know yes.
yeah.
Good.
So I do have a quick question about
Yes.
this, Ken. So the exit signs, I mean, some of our exit signs obviously need to be refreshed at least.
Yeah.
Is there a particular type of contractor who deals with exit signs? Is it an electrician versus?
It's the fire extinguishing companies.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the same company that comes and does this can
do
service
that
our
part,
fire
yeah.
sign.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah. I used to work for Kennebec Fire Extinguisher Company out of Winslow. We started the business back in 1978. Anyway, that's what he did. He did a lot of that. So the other thing that we must have is you should have a floor plan of where you are in this room and where the exits should be. A little nice floor map on the wall so people can say, oh, this is where I'm in, this is where I need to go, and this is where I need to meet on the outside. I don't see any signage in here because this is a school system, but I'm surprised you don't have it. You use this for town meetings?
Yes,
Yeah.
this room is not really used for school functions anymore.
It's just,
mostly
just,
for-
just
It's a
the
meeting
town.
base, yeah.
Okay, all right. But the exit routes must be clear at all times. Pretty simple stuff, folks. All right. The number of exits, again, 2 is fine. The exit lighting, I believe at nighttime, I don't think that's lit up, is it? Or if the power goes out, do those things automatically reflect? Lights come on, so that's what you have for the backup. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Oops. We don't need to go into that. That's a whole class on that I do at the schools. Okay, the last thing is any work that's going to be done in any of the buildings you work out of in lockout, tagout, you need to know what to do. And that's lockout, tagout. This works pretty well. It's usually the electrician that is called upon to work on any electrical equipment in the building unless you have your own electrician, but they have to have a lockout, tagout system. The purpose is to lockout, tagout is a requirement because if you're doing any work with the electrical system, putting in a generator, or you're working on a compressor and all kinds of types of energy, you need a lockout, tagout procedure. The regulations cover the work on electrical powered equipment, work on powered circuits, anytime you're doing any procedures during repairs or maintenance, and blocking equipment in raised positions have to be in a lockout tagout system. This should not happen, okay? Where an employee accidentally leaned on the start switch and turned it on in the machine itself and was not a good day. Prevents release of hazardous energy. The lockout makes that happen. Lock placed on appropriate energy isolating device that is in use. Or if you can't do a lockout, you can use the tag system that identifies the problem, the lockout date that it goes into service, identifies the person who's in charge, and used by itself only when you cannot use a lockout device. Causes of injury. There's been a lot of them out there, folks. Failure to stop the equipment, again, disconnecting from power source, failure to bleed energy, accidental restarting, failure to clear work areas before restarting. Types of energy systems we got electrical panel boxes, mechanical, chemical, thermal, hydraulic, and pneumatic. There's a lot of systems out there that we use. I know in the fire service we have compressors, generators, and so on and so forth. Prepare for shutdown. When you do a lockout procedure, you want to prepare for shutdown. You shut down the equipment, isolate all energy sources, apply locks and tags, verify the isolation, control stored energy, and prepare for startup when you're done. And these are the devices that can be purchased in most departments I've been in have that. Do you have that in yeah, you got the tag out devices, the lockout box? Yeah. So equipment already has a lock and a tag on it. Do I have to place my own locks and tags? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Okay? It's yes. Everyone working on the equipment must place their own locks and tags on it. Adequate blocking. We don't want this, okay? All right. All kidding aside. Okay. All right, now, let's see, I've got, all right, one of the things that they're requesting from the Bureau of Labor, this just happened about a little over a year ago, is what they would like us to do in our communities is have a safety program, health and safety for all employees. So the goal of the safety committee, this is what we'd like to do, is comprised of members of the departments, employees in the community that work here in the town to promote safety and health in the workplace, job sites, training, and emergency scenes. The focus on this is to prevent, detect, and correct and discuss potential workplace hazards at least annually, discussions regarding the near misses, review injury logs, suggestion on how to work smarter and safer, as well the input from the all members, employees are encouraged. So what Lynn would like us to do, and I had a long conversation with her when we started putting this together, was if we had one person from each department on the safety committee and meet once or twice a year. Maybe not even that, maybe once a year. But after an event has happened, if there's been an accident with a public works vehicle or any vehicle, we might want to have that committee get together and say, what happened? What went well? What didn't go well? What do we want to recommend for the next time if this should happen again? What precautions we take? So it's good that, do you have a safety committee now?
We do. It consists of our directors group, which represents
Okay.
all the departments, and we meet on a monthly basis.
So you're already doing it. So you're golden. Cool. I like that. A lot of departments still don't do it, but yours, I'm proud. Well, that's everything I need to cover with you folks. This is important. Like he said when he started, this is something to prevent and keep everyone safe in the workplace and for our community. But thank you. That was well done.
Thank you.
Any questions? It's going to be the same almost every year. I've upgraded. I did write a program. I don't know if the fire department wants to know about it, but I wrote a sexual harassment program for firefighters and EMS people. And if the chief wants it, I could forward it to him. Oh, well, I'm on the fire commission with him. Okay, so, and I deal with him monthly. No, I'm all kidding aside. But no, thanks again, folks. And anything that you need, you got questions on you got my number now, and we'll go from there. But thank you. Appreciate it.